I've just realized that Professor De Souza just sounds terrible, so I'm just Indra, okay? That's what my students call me, so. Okay, so this is a very hot topic, and I mean hot in the sense of not really, it's pressing, but it's also hot in the sense of it's highly debatable. And it gets very close to ideological battles, both at home and abroad. My father was a card, Stein, if this is any consolation, my father was a card-carrying member of the Socialist Party in Sri Lanka. So he'll be very unhappy with me if he reads my stuff. I don't think he does. And so, this is also a topic that's been talked about, you know, at least since the time of perhaps Aristotle, right? So, what brings social harmony and peace? It's been a topic that's been with us, and it's a topic that everybody has some kind of opinion on anyway. So my approach to this has come from my own personal experience, thinking about my favorite case, Sri Lanka, which is where I come from, and as a researcher on the topics concerning globalization. So, so this is where I come to this subject from. Okay. So, okay, I direct the program of the Globalization Research Program. It's one of the 6 Satsings Umroda at NTNU. And we hopefully ask socially relevant, policy relevant questions that we hope we can try to begin to find some answers, or at least flag as a topical discussion for further research. So that's the way in which I approach this subject, and not necessarily out of any sort of preconceived political beliefs about some of the things that we will talk about. So I'm going to speak very broadly. I don't have much time to get into details, but that we can get into in discussion time. So follow along. You have some things that I will flag in terms of your handouts at some point. You may want to look at that just so that you know what is it that I'm referring to. Okay. So we know that the trends in conflict have been changing for a long time. Countries used to go, in Immanuel Kant's words, the princes used to go to war as if for sport. In fact, war was a spectator sport where ladies would dress up and go out to the battlefield to watch the battles. I suppose we do it on TV today, but that kind of unlearning of war has been going on over a long period of time. This is not just World War I or World War II, but countries have slowly been unlearning war as a means of solving policy disputes. And this is a puzzle. Why? Or maybe it's not such a big puzzle. The answer is that war has become extremely costly. Costly in terms of men, and costly in terms of material. Costly in terms of lives, and costly in terms of material, right? And so the answer is that as people have been able to make more decisions about why rulers would go to war, and people bear the costs of war, war is becoming anachronistic, or is going away as a way of solving disputes. There's nothing that states should expend so much resources to go to war for that cannot be done in a less costly way, right? So this is a fundamental puzzle for people trying to study war. It's not really about flags or symbols or whatever. For me, it's why is it that people engage in this very costly form of behavior, assuming that human beings are not programmed to kill each other and enjoy doing it, right? Assuming that that's not true, why would people engage in this costly form of behavior when less costly options are always available, right? That is, you can make agreements, you can exchange, you can barter, you can get what you want by sharing, just dividing things up. Why expend all this cost and energy and resources and discomfort to make a point, right? So that's the fundamental puzzle. Why do we engage in this kind of behavior? So trends in conflict are going down, and one answer is that the costs of war, short of some other less costly option, is available, and this is what people prefer. And the more people have been able to, this is the democratic peace idea, the more people have been able to control their rulers from going to war as if for sport, the less likely war has become a means of solving disputes that countries may have. Okay. The commercial liberal idea is that war is costly and there are less costly options through trade and exchange. And so if countries trade and become more interdependent, if economies become more interdependent, then they are less likely to go to war because there are less costly options and there are ways in which rulers are constrained because somebody bears that cost of war and there will be a constraint on going to war as if for sport. So that's the kind of the commercial liberal idea in a nutshell. I want to get beyond that very quickly. So in your handout, you have a statement by Alexis de Tocqueville, a very early observer of early American democracy, because the European idea of democracy at the time of Alexis de Tocqueville, around the 1830s, was that democracy was terribly anarchical, right? People, you needed absolutist rulers, or you needed the feudal structures, and you needed the upper classes to control democracy. So the idea that common people could manage their affairs was totally alien for that period. And so de Tocqueville came to America and he was very puzzled. How does this early form of democracy work without anarchy, without people actually killing each other, right? Which was the French idea of what would happen if you had democracy, because of what the experience of the revolution and the post-revolutionary period had been. And there is one passage that I pulled out of de Tocqueville's Democracy in America, which is translated into English, and he says, really, if you really think about it, the harmony seems to come about, and I don't know the exact wording on that, but he says, if you look at the way Americans are engaged in business and commercial activity, you realize that nobody wants to upset the harmony that makes them all profit. So the answer, in a way, this social capital answer to him was that Americans are industrious, they are engaged in commercial behavior, and in commercial enterprise, and they come together to solve collective dilemmas because they all profit by solving these collective dilemmas in a peaceful manner. Nobody wants to upset that harmony. So this is the kind of intuition, it's a kind of a social capital argument, social capital being a big social sciencey term, which you have to somehow unpack. We don't really know what it actually means and what it does, but you can just use it as a label to kind of say, people have social capital because they are engaged in mutually beneficial activity. So the point I'm trying to make by using de Tocqueville's statement is to say that peace might not be something that comes because of the feeling of the heart, kind of stuff that Adam Smith talked about when he talked about, well, social harmony doesn't happen because people listen to their preachers. Social harmony happens because people are engaged in self-interested behavior. The old lady doesn't get the meat on her table because somebody goes out and kills the deer because he's thinking about the old lady. He's thinking about himself, but the social outcome is good. So what he was saying was quite revolutionary for that time, because you listen to your preachers and what he said. Greed was wrong,